Welcome, welcome, welcome. Well, today we got a very important topic for us Mets fans. We're going to go over the lineup. We're going to go over the rotation. We're going to go over the bullpen. We're going to see where these different areas of the team rank. But I want to begin with our president, with David Stearns, the guy who is running the ship right now, the captain, so to speak, of the organization, and really how he's communicating with us, the fans. And it's been a topic that I've seen, I've been contacted, messaged about, and I just want to bring it up for you to kind of see what you think about it, and I'll give you my take as well. Okay, here's the thing. Mets fans are probably one of the most intelligent fan bases in sports, and that's because we've been through a lot of turmoil, a lot of disappointment, and because of that disappointment, because of that turmoil, we're always trying to look to a new day, a better day, and we're always researching, we're always trying to extract things in the future that could be construed as positive. Okay, so now we have David Stearns in our organization who basically took the Milwaukee Brewers, a bottom feeder for the past 30 years before David Stearns took over the organization, and he turned them into basically a perennial winner in the Central Division. Now, the Central Division isn't as good as the NL East. It's not as good as the AL East. Probably not as good as the NL West with the Dodgers being there. But nonetheless, in the 8-year reign, David Stearns took that team to the playoffs 5 out of 8 times. Now, the Mets, we haven't been a team notorious for making the playoffs. In fact, it's embarrassing how many times we don't make the playoffs. It really is. It really is. So, that being said, Mets fans want to make the playoffs. Mets fans want to win the World Series. That's what we were promised. That's what I always say. But now you have David Stearns, who said in his press conference that our goal is to be able to compete for a playoff spot. Compete. So that doesn't, I would say our goal is to be a playoff team. Our goal is to win the World Series, compete with the World Series, but to be one of the teams that competes for the, let's say, the number 6 spot, I don't really see that as a high goal. I don't really see that as a high aspiration. And that really makes sense based upon how the team is built, based upon how the rotation is built. It really makes sense that that is the goal. We're just going to compete for a playoff spot. That means we could be the 7th, the 8th, the 9th best team in the NL division. As long as we're competing for that playoff spot, we are in line with David Stern's plan for the 2024 season. Now, is that going to make you, me, all the Mets fans happy? No, it's not, because at the end of the day, the Mets organization still has the highest payroll in all of MLB, right? So at the end of the day, is it acceptable to be the 8th or 9th best team in the National League? Really? Is that an acceptable goal to set in the beginning of the season and probably set in the beginning of the offseason when David Stearns took the job? That's probably what he said. All right, we're going to compete, meaning we could be the 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th best team in the NL because that is our goal. We are going to compete. Well, that is highly unacceptable if you believe you have superstars, if you believe you have a good team, and if you have the highest payroll in all of Major League Baseball, and if all you're able to do on the fly is to compete and possibly be the 8th, 9th, 10th best team in the National League, that is unacceptable. Now, I know if you're going to build things right, it takes time. But right now, if you're David Stearns, quite frankly, you have to be able to do both. You have to do both. Why can you do both? Well, you have the most resources in all of Major League Baseball. You have the most resources. That means you have the most scouting. You can get the best coaches. You can have the best analytics. You can have the best technology. You can have all the best things that help you be the best, right? So for And one of the things I spoke about in my video yesterday was that David Stearns said that he needs a year to get familiar with this organization so that he can make an educated decision going forward. Now, at first I was like, okay, what does that mean? What that means, like I mentioned in a past video, that means that Steve Cohen guaranteed David Stearns a significant amount of time as the GM. That means he's like, you know what? I'm going to give you, let's say I'm going to give you 5 years. Your job is secure. You don't have to worry. Now, that could be a good thing and it could be a bad thing. Okay, it's good because if David Stearns is going to do this the right way, maybe it will take time. Even though I still believe that he can do both. He can build it the right way and still provide the fans a winning team. Now, what he said, the most important thing is the product on the field. He said he wants to be involved in the community. He wants the players to do things for the community. He wants to do things off the field. But at the end of the day, you're not going to be successful off the field. You're not going to be successful for providing a fan experience unless the team is good. Because you can fans, like I said, Met fans aren't stupid. You can't charge us these crazy prices. You can't have the highest payroll in all of Major League Baseball and then say, oh, at the end of the day, we're going to be the 8th, ninth, 10th best team in the NL. It's just not acceptable. You can't do it. Even though if you think you're going to need 3 years to build this right, you have to be able to do both. You have to be able to put a playoff team on the field. It should be guaranteed playoffs, guaranteed, not to compete for a playoff spot. It should be we are going to be a guaranteed playoff team, and to compete, it should be competing for a World Series, not competing for a playoff spot. The bar was set too damn low this year. I'm telling you right now, I've been trying to look at this realistically. I've been trying to look at this in a very objective manner. But at the end of the day, the bar was set too damn low by David Stern. Yes, reporters asked him about, hey, what about the World Series? Then he minced words. He wasn't as direct. He's like, oh yeah, that's still the vision. The vision is to win a World Series. The vision is different than the goal. The vision is to win a World Series. The goal is to compete for a playoff spot. What the hell does that mean? Do not confuse the fans. The fans are not, they're not stupid. They're not stupid. The fans know when you're trying to put the wool over our faces. 2024 should not be thrown out. Yes, every single fan would agree. You have to play the young kids. You have to know what you have in Beatty, Vientos, Acuna, Drew Gilbert, all the young pitchers. You have to see what you have. But you also have to provide options. You have to provide options for a young manager, Carlos Mendoza, and that's what I'm saying. When I was asked, JD Martinez, do you agree with putting JD Martinez on this team? I view JD Martinez as an additional weapon, as a mentor for the young kids, somebody that is going to be an asset that you can use in any way, because money means nothing. If you give this guy $20 million a year and he's here for 1 year, that's fine. He could be used as a bat, as a fifth hitter, as a sixth hitter. If he's not productive, right away put Vientos in there. And if he is productive, then he mentors the young kids and he shows the young kids how to be a valuable professional. But and some fans have said this. Some fans have said that David Stearns comes across as smug. He comes across as having that grin on his face and saying, yeah, we have a good team, but we're not going to be able to achieve our goal this year. Our goal is to win a World Series. Our goal is to go far in the playoffs. How could you say you have a good team and that you're happy with your team when we cannot even achieve or even try to achieve our goal? How? Like I said, fans are going to have a short fuse. They're going to have a short fuse. This is New York. If you're honest and David Stearns is saying, you know what? This is my plan. It's going to be a 3-year process. In year 3, we're going to be here. Maybe you can't say that directly, but I believe you can communicate a vision with the fans. And if the vision you're still saying is World Series, we're not dumb. You have Luis Severino as your number two starter. You have Luis Severino as your number two starter. He had a 7 ERA last year. Come on, get real. We know that if you don't have a couple of decent pitchers and you don't have a solid lineup and you only have one solid bullpen guy, you're not going to go far when you got to compete with the Dodgers and you got to compete with the Braves. At the end of the day, you need to be better than the other teams. It's just plain logic. Okay, now, I like the fact that our goal is to see what we have in the farm system, see what players can impact the major league roster, because you know what? See how these guys fit. Maybe these guys could raise their value. Maybe we can interchange these pieces, ship something, let's say an extra shortstop. We have, seems like we have like 7, 8 shortstops. If we could interchange that for a pitcher or something like that, you have to assess your value, see where these pieces will fit in the future. But I believe you have to be honest with the fan base. And if you're giving off that smug demeanor, like you know more than, your fans, your paying customers, the people who are paying your salary, I don't think that is going to be effective long term. I think, yes, in spring training, it means nothing. It means nothing in a few games into the season. But if you don't win, if you don't overperform, or you don't really show the fans that we're going in the right direction, things are going to backfire pretty quickly. Now, at the end of the day, it was asked, we need patience. We need patience. Yeah, you need patience, but we're paying high prices. We're paying a lot of money to go to the game. I'm paying money to watch the games on TV. To get these specific MLB packages. If I go to the games, I have to pay an arm and a leg for food. I have to pay for everything. Fans have to pay for everything to have access to our team. So that means we deserve certain benefits from our president. We deserve benefits from an organization that has the highest payroll in the entire Major League Baseball. So the expectation should be clearly set. Clearly set. It was clearly set a couple years ago, 2-3 years ago, that it was World Series or bust. Now it's, like I said, a couple of days ago, we were a playoff team. In the beginning of the offseason, we were World Series. Then we were a playoff team. Now we're competing for playoffs. I mean, then at the end of the day, if we're not even competing for playoffs, it's like, oh, if the players show progress, if, we develop this, develop that. No, you can't keep lowering and changing the bar. You can't. You can't. It's not going to be acceptable. Okay, so let's just go over and I did this same video last year. Let's go over the specific positions. Okay, let's start off with the lineup, and we'll go through it by position. So for the catchers, we have Francisco Alvarez slotted as the starter, and we have Omar Narvaez slotted as his backup. So Alvarez is 22. Last year, I would say he's out of the box. He started out phenomenal. I think he had in midseason, he had about 20 home runs. He was set on pace to almost hit 40 home runs. And then by the end of the year, he had like 25 home runs. He only hit a couple more. I mean, the bottom line is Francisco Alvarez hit a damn wall. He didn't have the stamina for the 162 game season. So I would like to see him gain more stamina. His defensive side is a side of the plate. I was impressed with. Throwing out runners, I was impressed with. I think we're going to see him continue to grow. I wouldn't mind extending a contract, a value contract, give him 8-9 years. I wouldn't mind seeing a little value, because I think Francisco is going to be really a guy who can hit 30 home runs on average from your catcher position. And I know his average was under 210, close to the 200. I think he's going to get better. I think he just got tired. So the catcher's position, I would say that we should be set for a while. We really should. Francisco Alvarez is a guy with prolific power. He's a guy who you see videos of him in the weight room. You see videos of him constantly trying to improve his body, constantly trying to improve his game. He loves baseball, and that's what I like to see out of a youngster, a guy who is going to be brought up. So I like our catcher position. Okay, shortstop. Obviously, we have Francisco Lindor. Not going to say much about Francisco over the last 2 years. Francisco has been in the top 10 in MVP voting. I mean, he's been a guy who, I would say, hey, maybe nobody's worth paying $34 million, but he's been pretty damn close. He's been a top three shortstop. He's been both effective offensively and defensively. He hit 30 home runs last year, over 30 stolen bases. So he was extremely productive. I like that. And he's got 8 years left on his contract to be a Met. So, that's what I get back to Stearns. Like, depending on what Stearns is going to do, like, does Stearns think that he's going to trade all the veterans away? Because that's the thing that I heard. I'm like, Stearns might be wanting to trade Pete Alonso, wanting to trade Jeff McNeil, wanting to trade Francisco Lindor. So, that would be interesting because the thought process is you want to get all the youngsters on the same timetable. I don't know. That's just fodder, for food for some thought. Now you get to Pete Alonso, and Pete Alonso is one of the top first basemen in the game. Some people have him as top 5, top 2, top 3. I mean, bottom line, you got a guy there who can hit 40 home runs, 120 RBIs. He's a prolific run producer, slugger, one of the best that we've seen in quite some time. So Pete Alonso was set at first base. Second base is where I could see, a lot of guys mixing and matching. Right now, we have Jeff McNeil there. Jeff has been extremely streaky. Obviously, he doesn't have much pop. He's a jack of all trades guy. You can put him anywhere in the infield, probably except for first base, although he probably could play first base. You could play him in the outfield. He's a guy, like I said, doesn't have much pop. He won the batting title 2 years ago, and he had a good second half of the year last year. He bumped up his batting average into the 270s, but he had a very poor first half. And he's a guy that as he gets older, I'm not really going to rely on. He's a guy that I think he provides more value to another team because right now we are not really ready to win. When we're ready to win, Jeff McNeil is going to be 34, 35 years old. So right now, while Jeff still has some value, I think the value Jeff provides to the Mets is in trade value, a trade piece, before he loses all his value. So I would use the second base position to possibly play in a Luis Angel Acuna to develop your youngsters and bring them up and see what they could provide to the team. So, like I said, I would, use the second base to mix and match some of your young talent. Okay, now we go over to third base, and third base is a bit trickier. Third base is where I initially wanted to see Ronnie Mauricio. He is out for quite maybe the whole entire season. So we could see Brett Beatty. Probably he's going to be the starter. Then you have the backup as Joey Wendell. Now Brett Beatty is a guy who I believe highly underperformed last year. In AAA, he was a beast. He was quite frankly a beast, a guy who had an on base over 400, an OPS, I believe it was like over 900. The guy was just a beast. And then he comes to the major leagues and he's not doing it. He's really not cutting it. It's, I don't know what the deal was, if he was putting extra pressure on himself, but the talent was not translating to the major leagues. So there's going to be a significant amount of pressure, and I don't believe just giving the guy the position. I want to have him compete for the position. So, I would like, him to compete with the position. Joey Wendell is not a guy who's going to put a lot of pressure on him. But maybe a Mark Vientos, maybe if they would have brought in, that's why I wasn't opposed to bringing in a Justin Turner, because you want the guy to earn his position. So bottom line, I wouldn't mind third base being another position where you mix and match. But at the end of the day, this is why I want to provide Carlos Mendoza with as many weapons as possible, because I want all these positions to be solidified. I don't want all these question marks at each position. And, as we've already went, we have a question mark at second base. We have a question mark at third base. So, that hurts the overall, ranking of the lineup. Now, Outfielders, we have Brandon Nimmo, Starling Marte, Harrison Bader, Tyrone Taylor, and DJ Stewart. Most likely, how it ranks or how it plays out right now, it looks like we're going to have Harrison Bader in center, Starling Marte in right, and Brandon Nimmo in left. So that's what it looks like our starting outfield is going to be. Harrison Bader is going to be in center because he's just a better defender than Nimmo at this point. Nimmo sliding over to left field. Nimmo last year hit 23 home runs. So, I mean, the guy's got, he's adding more pop to his game. He's always been a high on base guy. So, Nimmo's showing us that he continues to get on base, continues to hit home runs, continues to be like, bottom line run producer. He's going to be one of the best left fielders in the game. Harrison Bader, he's not a guy I would expect much with the possibly hit 10 home runs, 10 to 15 home runs, bat 270, and provide a gold glove center field. That's not bad. Starling Marte is going to be your biggest wild card. He's going to be kind of like one of the biggest difference makers in the lineup besides the young kids. Like the young kids like Vientos and Beatty. Yes, obviously, if one of those guys has a 30, 40 home run season, that can have a huge impact. But Starling Marte, if he can resort back to, any sort of 2022 form, that would help the Mets out immensely. Last year, Marte was injured. Last year, Marte just stunk. He was horrible. He was horrible. Now, David Stearns says he's watching Marte play, winter ball, and that the guy looks healthy, and you can really tell the difference. Now, DH right now, we have Mark Vientos, and that's not what I'm really happy about. Now, Mark, just to comment on Mark, I think, has all the talent in the world. If he starts translating, doing what he did in the minor leagues, doing that on the major league level, sky's the limit. Sky's the limit for Mark Vientos. But I believe we should have an additional weapon at DH. JD Martinez, if he serves as that additional weapon, that veteran presence, I don't think it's a bad thing. At the end of the day, it only costs us money. And we're already over the third Steve Cohen salary tax. So there's really no penalty for adding a Mark Vientos. So that's why I would do it. So if I had to grade this lineup out of 10, I believe last year I gave the lineup a 7 out of 10. So the difference between this year and last year, this year you have Beatty at third base for the duration of the season. Obviously, you have Francisco Alvarez as the catcher. You have Mark Viento as the DH instead of Vogelbach. So, I mean, I'm probably around a 7, but a little lower because I learned that last year we weren't even as good as a 7. So I would have to say that this year we are a 6.5 right now. We are a 6.5. If we get a DH that can help out the lineup, then we can get over a 7. But right now we are just a 6.5 at best. That's where I would rank our lineup. Well, this video's gone on way too long. I'm going to leave the rotation and the bullpen to my next video. If you could subscribe, stick around. If you're a Mets fans, if you got great opinions, which 99.9 of you do, drop your comments. I can't say thank you enough. I will talk to you very, very soon, and have a great day.